Just wanted to let you all know that we are now live on YouTube. And I just spoke with Scott Brown or Member Brown, and he is calling in, so we should be connecting anytime. Kip, if you just want to give Scott a few more minutes to get connected, it looks like started then.
What is that?
There he is.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning, Scott.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members. Nice to see everybody.
Good morning.
It looks like everybody is connected, Chair Kip, whenever you're ready to start the meeting.
All right, it's 9 o'clock. It's time to call this meeting to order. Good morning. We're here today to listen to the department's presentation on the Hell Creek Recreation lease with the Army Corps of Engineers. Scott Zetfeld, you may start your presentation on Hell Creek Recreation lease with the Army Corps of Engineers action item.
Mr. Chair, just for a second, may I interrupt? And I'd like to give a little bit of history why where we're at today.
Okay.
I know there's been a lot of questions about this and the shortness of timing and everything else. So I wanted to take this quick opportunity just to explain to the board why the reasons why we're here today.
Please
And
do.
understand we had our leases expired on the 31st of April, and we had to sign a new lease with the Corps of Engineers. The process, we got that, we received a 10-year lease on that, but we also understand that the Little Shell tribe was trying to get this as well. So we worked through the governor's office and different groups to try to get the Little Shell to take over this lease. And understanding that the Corps of Engineers is the final authority on this, and we had to work through them. They're the ones that make the decisions on all of this. There's a lease with them, and they're 100% in charge of this. So it took us quite a while to get this worked out to where we could adjust the lease to what we have today, with the ability to move it over to Little Shell in at least, up to 2 years, with a couple of years out there if it doesn't happen right away, extensions on this. So that's kind of where we're at today. The idea was to move it to the Little Shell, and this is strictly on the lease. The deal with the concessionaire will be the next step of this once we get the lease signed. And then also we have outfitters that use that place, the Hell Creek, and we will be able to, once the lease is signed, we'll be able to give them the ability to use it. The whole goal is to make this as transparent and simple as easy to transfer this over to the Little Shell. And we're going to work with them. I've met with the chair yesterday and some other people about this transition. And we're all ready to go on this thing. So I just want to give a little bit of that history, because reading the comments, there's a lot of confusion out there thinking that the department has all the control on this. And realistically, we are very limited on what we can do as far as getting the lease. So I wanted to make that statement. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director Warsack. Zach, I believe you're up then.
Chairman Kip, members of the board, Director Warsack, Zach Zipfel, legal counsel for the department. And since its inception, at its first board meeting in 2013, I've also been counsel for the Parks and Recreation Board. So a few of you know me, a few of you I've spoken to by phone. Suffice to say, you will probably be seeing more of me during your tenure on the board, and I look forward to working with all of you. Director Warsick, I think, set the stage very nicely. This is a fairly discrete proposal that's being brought to you today. And generally, we like to have an orientation meeting before we present an action item to you. I know we've got that orientation meeting set for next week. I would like to very briefly give you some context from a legal standpoint in which you're operating. This board, as I said, was created by the legislature in 2013. As a board created by the legislature, this board acts pursuant to the legal duties that the legislature grants it. You are here today being asked to consider something within one of your discrete legal authorities, and that is under 23-1-111 of the Montana Code Annotated, this board has to approve all acquisitions or transfers of interest in any state park land. As Director Warsick noted, this is a lease with the Army Corps of Engineers at Hell Creek State Park. A lease is an acquisition of an interest in land. So that's what you're here today to consider. Along those lines, for those of you who may not be terribly familiar with it, although I suspect all of you are somewhat familiar with it, Hell Creek State Park is north of Jordan on the banks of Fort Peck Reservoir. That land is owned by the United States of America, acting through the United States Army Corps of Engineers. The department has had a no-cost lease for a 337-acre parcel with the Corps for a few decades now. That lease expires on Friday. As part of that lease arrangement, the department then has a concession agreement that it has entered with Hell Creek Marina to operate a store, a motel, and provide some other visitor services on site. As Director Warsick noted, we will probably be back in the near future with you to deal with the concession agreement. But the issue for you today, for your consideration, is the actual lease with the Army Corps of Engineers. Also, as noted by Director Warsick, that lease is functionally the lease you're going to be considering today is functionally the same as the lease we already have with the Corps, almost in all respects. With a couple, they added a couple wage requirements that, as a federal agency, they're required to put in the contract. The only thing that's really different for our purposes is the term of that lease. It is now a 2-year lease with the option for 2 one-year extensions. The understanding as part of that term is that in that 2-year time period, and less if less time if that's what's necessary, the department will work with the Little Shell Tribe to help facilitate their takeover and management of the park going forward in the future. That's part of the reason we have those 2 one-year extension options, just in case unforeseen things happen. We have the ability to extend it as necessary, with the hope that we can proceed with that in a shorter time frame. With that, that's it in a nutshell. Honestly, it's a fairly discrete proposal to you today. The 2-year lease, an option for 2 one-year extensions, with the understanding that the department's going to work with the Little Shell Tribe to facilitate their takeover of the management of the site. With that, I stand for any questions that you have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Zepfeld. Does the board members have any questions or concerns for Zach? Mary, your hand is up.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Zach, in looking at the lease, are we approving a draft, or is this the lease that will be?
Member Chairman Kip, that is a good question. I believe that it is still being reviewed by the Army Corps of Engineers Real Estate. I think I would redirect to Director Warsick if you have any insight on that.
Member Mo and Director Kip, that we will be getting the final copy they passed in the mail. That was the draft. The original copy is being sent to us. I believe, and Beth can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that should come in today, a copy of it today. The final.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm just confirming that is correct, that the Corps will be sending the final lease agreement for signature, most likely today, to the director.
I have a few more questions, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Member Mo.
The way I usually read documents like this, the changes are indicated in underlines and strikeouts. Yet you have indicated, Zach, that with respect to wages, there are some new elements, yet those elements are not underlined in here. So I'm not sure what has been changed and what has not, other than the term of the lease.
Member Mo, Chair Kip, I think the critical piece to answering that is most of this is a federal template. The only thing that we changed was the actual term. So the federal agency, the Corps, they have their own template that they change from time to time. That would not be reflected as an edit, if you will, in this document, because from their perspective, that was not an edit that was made to this document in particular. It was an edit that was made to the leases that they use all over the country. The only that we provided an edit to, and I believe is reflected in that document, is on page 1, and that is underlined with the new lease term.
Okay, and but in your summary, you've said that the other than the changing of the terms of the lease, the only substantive change has to do with wage requirements at the that are federal. Is that?
And I think that's an accurate statement, but it was not changed as a result of this negotiation. It was a change that the Corps has done to make sure that they're in compliance with their own regulations and federal statutes.
One of the things that has concerned me about all aspects of the proposal is that I don't see any plan for how we're going to conduct this transition with the Little Shell. And I don't know if there's going to be shared responsibilities during the course of the agreement. Is that anticipated and included in the lease in any way in the areas of insurance, for instance?
Member Mo, Chair Kip, I don't believe that that's in the concession or the lease. I'm not sure that would be an appropriate place for the lease. I mean, we would look to see that sort of transition process on the operational level details more in a management plan. We do have the 2 to 4 year management, forget what we call it, but it's in your packet of materials. I would anticipate that because of sort of on the compressed time frame we're on with this, with the lease expiring on Friday, that process and the corresponding responsibilities of the department and the Little Shell tribe will be fleshed out going forward. But in terms of the actual lease itself, that would not be a place where we would typically expect to see that level of operational detail.
If I could follow up, Mr. Chair, I'm just concerned about the language under insurance, which seems to indicate that we need to insure literally for anyone that we work with regard to activities that happen there. And so because there is really no detail about what level of involvement the Little Shell are going to have or are planned to have, I don't know how that insurance provision, whether we can meet that requirement or whether we must, or can you advise us on that?
Member Mo, Chairman Kip, I have to be frank, I haven't looked closely at the insurance provision in the context of which you're asking about it.
Okay.
This is fairly standard federal language. I think it's probably entirely consistent with other contracts that the department enters. think it's consistent with what we've had in the past with the, in the lease. But if you would like, I can look at that more closely and provide you a more detailed answer later, if that would work.
Well, we're voting today, right?
Would you like me to read that provision now? Should we recess?
No, I just, no, I don't want to take up too much time of the board. Can you explain to me what a continent clause, continent fees are? Page, item 32 in the lease. I can kind of infer what it is from the context. And finally, is there any memorandum of understanding with the tribe that exists now or that is going to, that we will, that board will be asked to approve?
Member Mo, Chairman Kip, I think that, like I said earlier, I would anticipate that as we have a little bit more time to implement this plan, we'll look at all options for the best way to memorialize that understanding between the department and the tribe. I don't know whether that's an MOU. I don't know whether that's a joint management plan. And depending on what form that takes, we'll determine at that time what the board's involvement, whether that requires a discrete action by the board. If it does, we will bring that back to the board for their consideration.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Chair, is someone else going to present on the environmental assessment and the plan, the 2 to 4 year operational plan, or does this constitute the entire presentation?
Member Mo, Chairman Kip, this is the entire presentation. The action item for the department or for the board to consider is the lease itself. I think we have people from the staff who could answer questions if you have them concerning those.
Member Mo, does that, did that answer your last question?
I guess so. There just seems to be so much up in the air, but we're on questions now. And so I don't want to chew up everyone's time if there are other people that have questions.
Director Warsack?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we cannot do anything with the Little Shell or the concessionaire or anything until we get this lease signed. So this is just a step to even move forward at all. Is the first step is to get the lease signed, and then we can go forward with the rest of it. That includes the concessionaire, talking to the tribe, laying those things out. The first and foremost step is what you have in front of you today. That has to be done before we can move forward.
Mr. Chairman.
Member Mo?
If so, then the inclusion of the 2 to 4 year operational maintenance plan would be irrelevant. I find it to be very relevant. And one of the most relevant things about it is that it makes no mention whatsoever of how this transition is going to occur, which seems to be the most problematic and function. I mean, everything about the term of the lease rides on a successful transition to the Little Shell tribe. And yet there is nothing about what we would regard as success, what the process for that is going to be. So I'm very concerned about that. is there something missing that we haven't seen?
Mr. Chair,
Um,
this is all, once again, this is all we're looking at this point. It's just because that's, I understand your concerns, Member Mo, but this is the first step. We have to get this signed, and then we move into the other part to basically lay out what that entails, the transition.
Thank
And
you.
that will be in front of the board again. That will come in front of the board.
Thank you.
Excuse me, are there any other members of the board with questions? Okay,
Chairman Kip,
yes, Mr. Loomis.
just one comment I had that's kind of along that subject is it seemed proper for me to see that the Parks is looking at staying on board for 2 years instead of just cutting ties at this time, not renewing the lease and just throwing it out there. I think that this is, it's hard to have a crystal ball and see what might need to be needed to make this transition smooth, to keep things going just as they are. But obviously that's the goal, is to keep this facility is as it is now at the level of services that it provides. So, and I like the fact that it's a 2-year lease, but we have options as things change, if or to be able to adapt and to make this transition smooth. So that's all I had to add there.
Thank you, Mr. Loomis. Any other member questions? Okay, if there are no other questions, would someone like to make a motion on the presentation given?
Chairman Kip,
Member Loomis?
I move the Parks and Recreation Board approve the 2-year lease agreement between the department and the Army Corps of Engineers for continued management of the Hell Creek Recreation Area and work with the Little Shell Tribe to familiarize them with site management through approximately year 2023.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Member Loomis made a motion and Member Brown seconded that motion. Now it's time to hear from the public comment on the motion. If there are members of the public that would like to comment, please raise your hand. And I believe, Colleen, you're going to let us know where we're at with that. It sounded like there were a number of people and we may need to limit their conversation to 2 minutes.
Yes, Chair Kip, we have 33 people online and Katie Gangstad will release them. And
Chair Kip, members of the board, Director Warsick, I'm Katie Gangstad. I'm a paralegal with the department. I'm just on the call helping out with the public comment today. So as Colleen said, right now we currently have 33 people dialed in to give comment. I just offer the reminder to those that are dialed in that it's *9 to raise your hand, and I will unmute folks one at a time. We are keeping that 2-minute time limit, so Colleen will let you know when that 2 minutes is up. So please be respectful of that. We want to give everybody the same amount of time to speak today. So with that, go ahead, members of the public, and dial *9 to raise your hand, and I'll start unmuting you one at a time.
Thank you, Katie.
Ms. Kibler, it looks like you're unmuted and you can give your comment when you're ready. Please remember to state your name and if you represent an organization.
Sure. I'm Mary Beth Kibler, Kibler Outfitting and Charter Fishing. We rent a spot from Hell Creek Marina, the concessionaire, and we have a charter fishing user permit, commercial user permit through the Corps of Engineers. We turned our paperwork in December as was required. Last year at this time, I had a permit to work come April 1. This year, I still do not have one, and the only signature that's still waiting on that is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Our license with the Montana Board of Outfitters runs from January 1st to December 31st. So I'm losing out on 4 months of my use, and normally we start about, into April, May 1st. We held our clients off a little bit longer because we knew we were going through this wreck and didn't have a signed permit yet. My main concern is that, Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, or the parks, said they were leaving a couple of years ago. The Corps of Engineers can't even consider the Little Shell tribe until the parks pulls away. In my opinion, your alternative is the best, even if it disrupts things a little bit. Let the Little Shell tribe go in and do their thing. My concern as far as the outfitters are concerned is the Corps of Engineers tells us, well, yes, you can get a 3-party permit that will allow you to launch from Hell Creek, but you cannot occupy the campsite that allows you to serve these guests through the concessionaire of Hell Creek Marina until we have a 4th-party agreement in place. So it's a moot point. There, no
Kibler, your 2 minutes
sense
is up.
getting that permit if you can't do it. Thank you. May I join later if we have extra time?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Katie, are you ready with the next one?
Yes, Chair Kip, members of the board, I have Lane Thomas unmuted. You can go ahead and start your comment when you're ready.
And please remember to try to keep it to 2 minutes. Thank you.
Yep, will do. So I'm Lane Thomas. My parents are Clint and Deb. We own and operate the Hell Creek Marina. I just have a few things I want to say. Like I said, for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Clint and Deb's son. Roughly in 2005, I guess my family began to see some writing on the wall. That writing was that the state parks had no intentions of honoring our renewal clause in our contract. At that time, I was 11 years old and in the 5th grade. I am now 26 years old with kids of my own. This battle has pretty much consumed the vast majority of my life. Basically, I've watched my parents fight for the right to simply make a living. Allwell State Parks has continuously drug them through the mud and tarnished their names. They've done this by making false statements and supposed violations. They have created a false history, basically to show the public how difficult my parents are to deal with. And all I can say is after 15 years of witnessing, dealing with, and living through these games, who wouldn't be hard to deal with? My parents have withstood it, but not without cost. So basically, I'm going to leave it at this. I asked the state parks and the boards, when is enough enough? I honestly believe it's time that we turn this over to Little Shell and maybe make Hell Creek enjoyable like it used to be. That, I guess, is the entirety of my comment. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have James. You can go ahead and use your
Yeah, James Gustafson, Friends of Hell Creek Park President or President, excuse me, I always get nervous at these things. What I'd like to say is that we cannot forget what got us to this point. And basically, it was Montana State Parks and a few of their employees that took it upon themselves to make a change. But the problem is, it was a change that we weren't ready for and we didn't want as users. But that being said, it's time to start the healing process and to move on. The members of Friends of Hell Creek, which now members 729, feel the Little Shell Tribe is the best option for that. I've had numerous conversations with Gerald Gray, the tribal chair, and several other members of the tribe. And these are professional businessmen and women that are more than capable of taking on the responsibility of a state park. If the Little Shell Tribe is not an option, or is the consideration for the Little Tribe fails, then as president of the Friends of Hell Creek, we're recommending option A. But like I said previously, it's time to heal. It's time for the hatchet to be buried by those Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks employees against the Thomases. On that matter, I speak with a lot of expertise, as I've stated in numerous posts. I'm the one that did the Freedom of Information Act. I'm the one that have read the thousands of pages of emails and documents and saw an actual effort to destroy the reputation of a family in Montana. And to be quite honest, that embarrasses me and I'm ashamed of it. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Heflin. Katie, you're queuing another one up for us?
Yes, Chair Kip, members of the board, I have Tiffany Smotherman. You are up, but it looks like you're still muted on your own end.
Hi, can you hear me? My name is Tiffany Smotherman. I apologize. I couldn't figure out how to unmute. A lot of comments are a lot of things that I wanted to say. I'm from Jordan. I am actually also one of Clinton Deb's kids. You heard from my brother. He expressed a lot of concerns. My concern is that, but also this thing is to grant the parks another 2 long years, possibly 4, to go along with the mess that's already been created. I guess my question is also with member Mo. It sounds like, I mean, they've said the 2 years is what they need, but they cannot justify why it's going to take 2 years, why it could take 4 years to transition this. They don't know why are they wanting this timeline, I guess is my concern. Little Shell, like everybody says, is willing and ready to jump in there. If FWP needs some time to train, a few months, let them know what's going on. Get out. You guys have already said, 5 years ago that they were walking away. Now all of a sudden it's the time to walk away and everything's kind of in a backlash of now we're not ready. So I guess mine is kind of the same thing as member Mo was asking is, why is it going to take 2 years to transition it to the Little Shell? What is the plan? Why do you need that long? Who gets to add on that 3rd year, 4th year? Why are we in that timeline? I guess is my big concern. Why are you guys taking so long to transition something that's already a mess? Everybody's frustrated with it. Let the Little Tribe take over. Let Hell Creek thrive and the town of Jordan that's being affected as well. Let us thrive again. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Chair Kip, members of the board, there are still well over 30 people dialed in. However, I don't see any hands up right now, so I would just offer again that it's *9 to raise your hand if you'd like to give comment. I think there are some people that are on their computers as well. So for those, if you're on your computer, there should be somewhere you could raise your hand on the Zoom screen, or you can post something in the chat to let me know that you would like to give comment. So I just think maybe we could give it a minute or two and see if we can get some more hands up here. Chair Kip, members of the board, I'm still not seeing any others, although we do have Miss Kibler, who does have her hand up again. I know she asked if she could have some time, if there was time left over. So I would just check in with you guys and see if you would like me to unmute her again.
I think that would be perfect if we're waiting for others to raise their hand.
Okay, great.
Thank you for recognizing me again and allowing me to finish. There's a tremendous double standard between, and I believe it probably comes from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, but it is also on the parks' head because they say it's a requirement of the parks. The outfitters who work out of any other marina on Fort Peck pay $275 to renew their license. They go fish. They do not put in the same paperwork we have, nor do they pay the 2% gross income that we pay. Our gross income last year was down because of the COVID, but normally it is, we pay the parks a commission of 2%, averaging between $1,000 and $1,500. That's a tremendous difference between $275. It should be the same for us at Hell Creek as it is for those folks who work out of the dam. And that is a parks issue right there. As well, they blame each other. You blame each other. One blames the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the other one blames the parks. That is the main reason. And I'm still, here I am, waiting to start business. And I cannot until somebody makes up their mind to sign my paper and allow me to go to work. I just ask that you get it over with and get out and turn it over to the Little Shell tribe. Let them go to work on fixing this thing. It's too much bureaucracy. Thank you.
Chair Kip, members of the board, it looks like we have Jennifer Crawford up.
Hello, members of the board. I am Jennifer Crawford, and I am the treasurer and clerk of district court in Garfield County. My question is the Little Shell tribe represented here today? And if not, why are they not represented? It would seem that their input would be very valuable at this point. Thank you.
Chairman Kip, members of the board, I'm seeing no other public comment right now. So again, I just put out one more reminder. If you're on your phone, it's *9 to raise your hand, and that will alert me that you would like to comment. Here we go. We have some people raising their hand now. So phone number ending in 505, you are unmuted on my end, but it looks like you're still muted on your end. You could try dialing *6 to unmute yourself. I believe you're unmuted, caller ending in 505. Okay, well, maybe I will circle back to that caller since we have several other hands up. So caller ending in 505, I'll check back with you here in a little bit. So Megan Thomas.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Megan Thomas. A little bit about me. I'm married to Lane Thomas. He did a comment earlier, and Clint and Deb Thomas are my in-laws. A big thing that I've noticed is that when we've been combing through a lot of the comments and people's opinions about this upcoming lease renewal, some people have been saying, why change things if they're working? That's the big problem, is they're not working. Hell Creek Marina, it came into my life when I was about 6 years old as a kid, just a vacation spot. And then I started being more involved with it around 2010 when I became more involved with the family and seeing all that aspect of it, the business and everything. Since then, I've really seen the difficulty and the struggle that not only the concessionaire, but the outfitters and even the public have had to deal with when it comes with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, Army Corps of Engineers with this current lease. I kind of go back to a few other comments that have been made during this meeting is when is enough enough? Just let it go, let the little shell take over. None of this 2-year continuation plan with another year and another year to keep on going. It just needs to be done. It needs to be handed over. Enough is enough. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, caller ending in 134. You are unmuted on my end, but it looks like you're still muted on your end. So you could try dialing *6 to unmute yourself.
Good morning. My name's Tim Tobel. I'm a 4th-generation Montanan. I live in Helena. I've used the Hell Creek Recreation Area since I was born. My family has used it since it was established. Over the years, I have seen a number of instances where anybody could have done a better job at the Hell Creek Recreation Area campground than what Fish, Wildlife, and Parks was doing. I stood in line one morning for 20 minutes to use an outhouse. 2/3 of the campground was full and they had one outhouse open. I got chewed on by one of the people at the office for doing exactly what the sign says when you check into a camp spot. Her answer was, well, you should have told somebody. It doesn't say that on their sign. I've gone to the fish cleaning station. It doesn't work. The holding tank for the fish cleaning station overflowing onto the roadway. It's time that Fish, Wildlife, and Parks stepped away from Hell Creek. There's no reason that the Little Shell tribe needs their guidance for 2 years. And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. We have Vern up next.
Yes, thank you. My name is Vern Gagnon. I am a Montana resident for my life. I also am a fishing outfitter. I operate out of the dam. I had previously operated out of Hell Creek as a guide for Kibler charter fishing. My comment really is similar to others in that it is time for the Montana State Parks to step away from Hell Creek as they had determined 5 years ago, and to allow the Little Shell to take over as soon as possible. The 2 to 5 year plan that is proposed allows for an extension upon extension, which is unnecessary. There should be a definitive timeline and a definitive plan to hand it over to the Little Shell, who could begin management almost immediately. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Eric up now.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I just calling on as a Montana resident and a user of Hell Creek Marina. and avid Montana sportsman, just calling to just reiterate what a hardworking family the Thomases are, taking care of the property, helping people. I have seen things as far as, unattended boats and them literally jumping in the water to fix it, running around the campground to make sure that everyone's doing okay, people asking them questions, and always having an answer to people who travel there, and Lane coming out and fixing their boat literally on the spot. Very, very competent people. I understand the Little Shell tribe has the competence to take over immediately and, assist with making this a better spot for all of us to enjoy. Really, if you haven't been to Hell Creek, I would encourage you to just look at some of the, the pictures of this special spot and all the families that travel, within Montana and come to Montana to recreate. And, let's keep the wheels rolling with this place. And echoing the comments of other folks, it seems that it's time to transition this to the Little Shell and let this place thrive. Let us make memories with our own children and grandparents here as we come out to Hell Creek and fish. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have Rita Wagner up.
Yeah, this is Mark Wagner. I'm a Minnesota resident. I'm just a user at Hell Creek. Been going there for quite a while. Far as I can see, the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks have been just a total failure down there. You go to the campground, the website says the campground is always full. You go down there, there's hardly anybody there because the website says it's full. The fish grinder never works, running over the road. You can't clean. You're not supposed to clean your fish anywhere else but at the fish cleaning station. Well, where do you clean them? You can't. And I don't understand how you can justify a 2-year extension with all the failures you've had for the last 10 to 15 years down there. None of the customers are happy. Nobody at the campground is happy. The campground's always losing money, yet it's never full because you don't post it on your website. Nobody's happy. Nobody goes there because it's such a pain. Remember, Mo said that there's no time we're all in a rush here to give it to the Little Shell. Well, who's responsible for waiting until the lease is up till at the end of April? Why wasn't this done 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever you voted that you were not going to renew your lease? I don't understand how you can tack on another 2 years as the motion is made when it hasn't worked, yet you wait right to the end. So you don't listen to the comments. It's just, I am having a hard time ever going back to Montana just because of the bad experiences I've had down. And that's got nothing to do with the Thomases at the marina. They're nothing but helpful. They've, anything you want, they'll do for you. If it wasn't for them, that place would be deserted. You have to give it up. You can't run it. The government's a terrible entity to run it. Give it to Little Shell. Anybody could do it better than Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. Thank you for your time.
Okay, we're gonna try caller ending in 505 again. I have you unmuted on my end, but it looks like you're muted on your end. I think *6 should unmute you. Caller ending in 505. It looks like you're unmuted. Well, I apologize. We're not hearing anything. Chair Kip, members of the board, it does look like we have a few more hands up from folks who may have already commented once. I'm not sure if they came close to their 2 minutes or not, so I just would check with you to see if you would like to allow them a second comment or not.
I would be okay with that. How about from the other board members?
Okay. Mr.
I'm fine with that.
Great. Mr. Gus,
Yes,
have you up?
yes. Jim Gustafson, Friends of Hell Creek again. I'm in contact with Chairman Gray as we speak. The Little Shell Tribe was not on the agenda. That's partly why they're not represented. And apparently he's the phone number that you guys can't get on to talk. I'm assuming that because he's trying to jump in and he's not having any luck. So I apologize for Chairman Gray, and hopefully we'll be able to hear from him yet this morning. And that's the extent of my comments. So appreciate it.
Okay, we have a caller ending in 289. You are unmuted on my end, but it looks like you're still muted on your end. So *6 should unmute you. There we go.
Can you hear me there?
Yes, we can.
We'd just like to comment. We've been going to Hell Creek for quite a few years, and kind of in agreement with some of the other callers that it's kind of gone downhill for some reason. You know, what the miscommunication, why, or what. I'm not on that end to see what's going on, but there needs to be some changes. But why do we wait till the last minute to come in and have this meeting? I mean, if the Little Shell was part of this negotiation, shouldn't there be some discussion with them and try to keep them on board as we're going, as opposed to just a last minute deal with the parks and the Corps, and then down the road, what's to say anything's going to change? That we got to. Everybody that's involved needs to be a part of this, not just one side, and then we'll discuss it later. So I thank you very much.
To that person that just talked, can we get your name and where you're from?
Barry D. Jagger from Melstone.
Thank you, Barry.
You bet.
Okay, we have Cody on.
Yeah, hi, this is Cody Little. I'm calling out of Wyoming. I've been visiting Hell Creek for the last couple of years. Just started in 2019, but I've been going pretty regular. It's been becoming one of my all-time favorite spots to go. I'm an avid outdoorsman. And it just seems like I've been seeing it kind of deteriorate, as some of the other callers had said, in the past couple of years. And I would just like to reiterate the fact that I'd like to see the Little Shell take hold of it and help the Thomases out with it. The Thomases have been nothing but great to everybody I've seen up there. They provide a service that there's not available for 60 miles around there to help the outdoor community for fishing, hunting, all of the above. They also provide services in the wintertime for ice fishermen, as in the safety issue. Clint and Lane they help rescue machines and stuff that'll fall through the ice. I mean, that's a safety issue. If they leave there, if they get pushed out, then who's going to take care of that? I mean, the place is going to be deserted if those guys get blown out. But I appreciate your time and appreciate everything's going on. And like I said, I would like to see it as moving forward. Let's get it done. Let's get it done now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chair Kit, members of the board, we do have a few more hands up, but I also see Director Warsek's hand up.
Okay, Director Warsak, could you?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the board, a little point of clarification. A lot of what we're hearing on these comments is really not directed at what we have today. Today, all we have is to sign the lease. And we can't do any negotiation with Little Shell or anything else until that lease is signed. And once again, for the timing part of it, the Corps of Engineers is the one that set the terms and the dates on it. We had asked, they started out the 10-year, we'd asked to go down, they said 5, and we negotiated down to a 2 with the 1-year extensions. That's where the lease came to. That doesn't mean that we can't move this as soon as possible. And that is what our intention is. But that will be brought in front of the board at a later date when we talk about the concessionaire and how the transition is going to work. So I just wanted to make that point of clarification.
Thank you, Director Warsack. Member Mo has her hand up.
A question for Mr. Warsich, if I might.
Yes.
Has the Corps determined that the extended time is necessary for the Little Shell to take over because of the resource issue?
Member Mo, no, that is not the reason. They just wanted to have that in there as a safety valve in case some issues. That's my understanding. That's kind of standard with them, is to, on a short term, is to have some extra opportunities in there. So
Follow up, Mr. Chairman. So what you're saying, Mr. Warsich, is that the Corps desires this transition period rather than cutting it off right now?
no, no, it's not that they desire one thing or the other. They just want to show that we can do this with the Little Shell, because we're gonna sublease with the Thomases, and then Little Shell move into it, and we're gonna have some this summer to work with them to show that we have a good transition. Once again, our goal is real simple. It's to provide the best service in the area for that area that we possibly can, and make this as seamless as possible in this transition.
Thank you.
Katie, do you have any more people in the queue?
Yes, Chair Kip, members of the board, I do have some more people here, so we'll continue on. Shauna, you should be ready to talk on your end. It looks like you're still muted on your end, though. Shauna Heiser? Okay, well, while we're waiting for Shauna to see if she can get unmuted, I'm going to try and unmute number 505 again. They do have their hand up, so we'll see if we can get them to be able to be heard here. So I have both Shauna Heiser and a caller ending in 505. Both of you guys are able to be heard now, but it looks like you're both muted on your end. And caller ending in 505, it looks like you're good to go now, but we don't hear anything.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my name is Tim DeJager, and I'm from Melstone, longtime Hell Creek user. I've been going there since the late 80s. And I can actually say firsthand, I have seen the park go, it's just went downhill. I guess I'm like everybody else. I don't quite understand how come we're waiting until the last minute. I heard what the director said, that it's coming from the Corps. Okay, I'll go with that. But I've just watched things over the years just degrade. I mean, and I don't know why, if we're trying to make it one of the premier places, how come that's allowed to happen? I've seen some personnel conflicts in there, you know, and actually I've had some of them. I'm not going to BS anybody. We've been going there for a long time, and to me and my family, it's one of the best fishing accesses in the country, and it's close for us. I mean, we're not very far away. But I get and understand why it's being allowed to be run down and not be maintained in a better format. The Thomases are truly an asset there. I don't care what kind of problem you have, it'll be taken care of. They'll help you out any way they can. We pulled in there the 4th of July last year. The what there was for grass hadn't even been mowed. We set up, and the parks is just now coming around mowing things on the 4th and 5th of July. I mean, this is crazy, people. It should have been ready for the holiday weekend. I don't understand why things have been allowed to spiral down to where we're at right now. One of the best things about that place is its location and access and whatnot. But the parks has had their opportunity. I do believe it's time for them to head out. I think the Little Shell tribe needs to be put in there ASAP. People continue to use that. I mean, and it's just not being taken care of like it should. I guess I just don't understand why we've come to this stage. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay, it looks like we have someone from the core up. USACE, you are unmuted. You should be able to give your comment. Okay, well, I think I will try and circle back here. We have some more hands up, so. Gerald, looks like you are up.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Hello,
we can.
I'm Gerald Gray. I'm the chairman of Little Shell Tribe. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I've been listening the whole time. We do honor the government to government relationship in that sense. We're technically not on the agenda, so that's why I wasn't going to say anything. But some people have asked. Just want to let you know we are amenable to taking over now or waiting. We're open to anything. The tribe does have a business plan, an operation plan in place. We currently own 5 other businesses. So we all are business people. We're technically not like the other tribes that are in the state. We don't have a reservation. So, we are very economically self-sufficient people. As far as the park goes, we're excited. We are happy to work with the director. He's been very open with us and had an open line of communication. We really do appreciate that. I'm here to answer any questions if allowed. But again, we weren't on the agenda, so I didn't have anything really prepared for the board. And thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Gray.
Okay, Chair Kit, members of the board, I'm going to try the core again. I know they were trying to get unmuted. It looks like we should be able to hear you, but we're not hearing anything. Okay, well, I'm gonna move on to others that have their hands up, but maybe we'll try again here in a little bit. Okay, caller ending in 992. You are unmuted on our end. Looks like you're still muted on your end. *6 should unmute you. There we go.
Hi, Chairman, members. My name is Misty Cool. I am the newly appointed Director of Indian Affairs for the state of Montana. Thank you so much for your time. I'm calling in to clarify a few issues that have come up in this meeting so far, and I'm really thankful to the public for their participation and comments. First of all, I'd like you to know that there have been countless hours put in between myself and the leaders at Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, including Director Warsek, has been personally involved in this, and this is something that we've been working on for months. There's a lot of, what I'm hearing is, why can't we just not accept the lease and turn it over to the tribe? The Corps has made it extremely clear that if Fish, Wildlife, and Parks does not accept the lease, that it would not automatically be handed to Little Shell. So really, this is our only and best option to get it in the hands of the tribe without seeing operations halt completely. The Corps said that a couple of measures that they would take is reopen the RFP so that it could be another competitive application process. I think we all know what that means at a federal bureaucratic level. That could take an entire another season. And the other thing I'd like to add is the Little Shell tribe, and I hope Chairman Gray would back this up, they have been also invited to be a part of this process. So in my opinion, where I'm sitting, this is the best plan. And we all want to protect the Thomases. We understand how hard they work, that what they do at the marina is their livelihood and where they raise their family. There is no intention to do anything other than continue with the Thomases. And so I just would ask people to have a little patience. We understand that there's trust that needs to be rebuilt, but please know that this wasn't a cavalier decision intended to hurt anyone. This is the best plan that we have to transition the park to Little Shell. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Misty.
Okay, caller ending in 411. You are unmuted on our end, but it looks like you're still muted on your end. *6 should unmute you.
Good morning. This is Darren McMurray with the Corps of Engineers in Fort Peck. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Again, my name is Darren. I'm the Operations Project Manager for the Fort Peck project. And I guess a couple things I want to clarify. And I guess I would support part of the communication that Missy Cool just discussed. There's been quite an effort to get to where we are today. And it began, frankly, late last summer with the opportunity to compete between Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks and the Little Shell Tribe to submit proposals for the opportunity to take renew a lease or to establish a new lease if the tribe had been the selected opportunity. And we are here today based on an evaluation of the proposals that were submitted. The Fish, Wildlife, and Parks were the selected party to renew the lease and move forward. And that opportunity included a 10-year term. And that was the determination by my agency to make this opportunity for a 10-year opportunity of a lease, regardless whether that would have been at that point
the tribe or Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. Regarding the time frame and the 2 years with the possible extension to 4, that was clearly not our process or decision. That was Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks proposal to reduce the 10-year to the 2-year term with the possible extension. This is not the Corps of Engineers' decision. This is what's been presented to us as a proposal to accept with the new lease. So I wanted to make sure everybody understands that. This is not a restriction or a requirement that we've put into place. This is a determination by FWP to propose moving forward. Here's how they want to renew the lease for that 2-year term with the possible extension with 1-year options. Over.
Thank you, Darren.
Okay, we're gonna try Shauna again. See if we can get her unmuted this time. So it looks like you are unmuted and able to speak. So I know this happened with Darren at the Corps. He was trying on his computer. I don't know if you're on your computer, Ms. Heiser, but he ended up having to call in on his phone. So that could be an option if you have your phone with you. You could dial in and hit *9. Since it doesn't look like the computer might be working very well. Move on here. Caller ending in 598. You're unmuted on our end, but you might have to dial *6 to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Carol Hinkle. My husband was Mark Hinkle, the outdoor writer for the Gazette, so I have a little different perspective from others. He started working on stories about the things that were going on at Hell Creek and the animosity that was going on between the concessionaire and staff. And for quite a while, he just didn't even write on it because he knew about it, but he didn't feel it was his place to say anything. He wrote many letters. So what I want to talk about is the elephant in the room. If this lease is signed, what I want to say is I want to make sure that the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks personnel are willing to look at this in a positive light and not use what they've done in the past with misinformation and rumors and written things that were not true for non-compliance. And I think that's what everybody is concerned about. I know that there were some good employees, but there were also some other employees that saw that their main goal was to get rid of the concessionaire in any way they could. So I hope that they will work honestly with the tribe and not use their powers to change the attitude on how the project is going. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Kip, members of the board, I'm seeing no new commenters, so I would just offer again, since there's a lot of folks dialed in that haven't commented, that it's *9 to raise your hand. And Chair Kip, members of the board, it looks like there is possibly some folks who have already commented that have hands up again, so I don't know if you want to continue to allow second comments or not, but I defer to you for that.
Members of the board, how do you feel about that? Additional comments from people that have already commented? I'm not, nobody's raising their hand. I would be
Okay, Russ.
Member, I say Member Loomis has got his hand up.
I'm sorry.
Member Mall, go ahead.
Chairman Kip, I'm okay for some additional comments if that is appropriate.
This is Member McLean, and I am also okay for limited, and especially if they're different comments than what we had heard, not just reiterating everything.
Member Mall.
I would appreciate a interpretation from our attorney, because public comment is meant to be a prepared comment, not a continued deliberation. That's our job. But that said, because we have put time limits on comment, if there is time, I'm fine with hearing more if it's appropriate within our rules.
Member Mo, Chairman Kip, members of the board, I think it's at the board's discretion. If you're interested in hearing additional comments from people who've already commented, you're welcome to do that. At the same time, to Member McLean's point, it might be constructive to move things along if we're not simply repeating previous comments, but it's at your discretion.
Member Brown, did you have a comment there?
No, but I agree with what Zach and Member McLean stated. If it's a new comment versus just reiterating what we've already talked about.
Okay, and I guess it would be all right for some additional comments from people that have, but I think they need to keep them on the motion that's on the table. Comment about that and not get off in the weeds, so to speak. Go ahead, Katie.
Okay, great, thank you. Tiffany Smotherman.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Tiffany.
Okay. Just on going on the 2-year lease that you guys are debating upon, I guess as the Corps says and everybody says, the 2 years they are saying is what's best to transition to Little Shell, which Little Shell has already said they're willing to do it now or do the 2 years transition. Everybody said that they want to do it as fast as possible. Is it a possibility? Because I don't see the need in the extensions in there. If they say they want to do it as fast as possible, maybe just changing your proposal to 2 years, not the extensions, I feel would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Okay, it looks like one more, Mr. Wagner.
Okay, I'm from Minnesota again. I got a comment on the 2-year extension. Any business needs to go to the bank, get a loan every now and then. In 2 years, the bank, you don't have time to pay the loan back, and the bank won't give you a loan. Hence, the restaurant's never been rebuilt because we can't get a loan long enough to pay it back. If you just give them 2 years, if you're just kicking the can down the road, whether it's an intended consequence or not, it looks like you're trying to run them out because they can't manage their capital the way any other business can do it. I mean, it's different for a government employee. They always get a paycheck no matter what. But I do have 2 questions and I don't understand them. Why is the lease down there different than any other Corps of Engineer lease? And as Mary Beth Kibler said, why does they pay a percentage of their gross when no other lease on the whole river, on the whole Corps of Engineers does? And that's a question for any of the board members or the gentleman from the Corps of Engineers. Why is that lease different than that? Nobody else has a second entity on their lease, as far as I know, all the way down the Missouri River, going to North Dakota, South Dakota, and beyond, that I've ever dealt with. I don't understand that. If anybody could answer that question, I'd be grateful. Thank you.
Okay, and I think we have one more, Ms. Kibler.
Thank you for allowing me to speak again. I would like to address this to Darren McMurray, please, of the Corps. And isn't it true that the decision that the Parks is trying to make today is to whether you walk away or whether you continue? Isn't it true that the Corps of Engineers can go on to the next bidder if the Parks says no and backs away today? Isn't that how that has to work? Thank you.
Okay, Chair Kip, members of the board, I think we have Darren with his hand up from the Corps.
Again, this is Darren McMurray with the Corps of Engineers, the project manager. And I guess to Mary Beth's question, the format in which the opportunity to compete for this lease was a public parks and recreation lease. And based on the proposals submitted and the evaluations that were done, the best submittal was from FWP. That is why we decided to move forward with this opportunity to renew the lease with Montana State Parks. Just so everybody again is aware that the proposal submitted by the Little Shell Tribe, in their communication in the write-up, they were proposing that this would be a for-profit enterprise, which is a separate lease opportunity that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has available, but it was not the format offered in this competing opportunity. So to your point, Mary Beth, no, we do not have the direct right at that point, based on what was submitted to us, to go to the next offer if FWP decided to step back from this agreement. So that's the way this works. The other point that was made regarding the lease, everybody also needs to understand our concession or lease agreement is with Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. They are the primary leaseholder for the entire acreage that's outgranted at Hell Creek State Park. They in turn went to a third-party agreement to lease a portion of that outgranted lands to the Thomases for the concession marina operation. Any fees paid, that is part of that third-party agreement. Our public parks and recreation parent lease, if you want to call it, with Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks is free. They don't pay the federal government any fees to use that area. However, any subsequent third-party or fourth-party lease, such as the Thomases or the potential for the outfitters, per statute and our requirements as a separate agreement, would require that they pay those fees. And I guess I would say also that where we have direct concession agreements, that we have 3 other marinas on Fort Peck besides Hell Creek, and in each of those circumstances, those are direct leases with the improvement land, or not landowner, they don't own the land, they own the improvements of their business. Our agreement requires that they do pay a portion of their gross sales for the right to utilize that core land to provide those recreation services. And the difference between those 2 circumstances is the Thomases are a third-party lessee through Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. We're just approving them as part of that opportunity. We are not the direct lessee to the Thomases. Over.
Chair Kit, members of the board, it looks like that is it for comment. And it looks like Director Warsack has his hand up.
Thank you, Katie. Director Warsack.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm just watching this. And I appreciate everybody asking the question and answering, but I think we're a little bit out of protocol here. I think the question should be asked by the board members, not the public. So I just want to make sure we're aware of that. Although I do think it was a good discussion, and I appreciate the Corps of Engineers clearing that, Darren clearing those questions for us. So I just want to make sure you understand that, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie, then we're done with comments.
Chair Kit, members of the board, it looks like we're done with comments.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any further questions before voting on the motion?
I have no questions. I would like to deliberate a bit as the board before we vote.
Okay.
I concur with Member Mo. I'd like a little bit of deliberation with just the board.
Right, that sounds great. Do you want to lead us off then, Mary? Is this is the right
Yeah.
direction, isn't it?
I believe that Member Loomis has already made something of a statement with which I agree, but I'm very torn on this proposal that is in front of us. And much of my dissatisfaction with it is the lateness of the hour with which we have received it. Our job on this board is to protect public access to outdoor recreational opportunities, to steward public resources. Hell Creek State Park is a very important piece of the state park system, particularly because Eastern Montana doesn't have a whole lot in terms of a piece of the pie when it comes to that. So preserving that outdoor opportunity for Montanans is really, really important. And in spite of what many of the commenters have made in terms of stewarding public resources, State Parks has invested $1 million in infrastructure at Hell Creek State Park in the last biennium alone. So that is you and me and everyone else's taxpayer money. So we have a responsibility as we make this decision. And just like any public board in Montana, we also need to provide opportunities for public comment. And I think we have done that today. But because of the lateness of this proposal, I am always troubled when I see a newspaper person, as the Garfield Gazette editor commented to us, that they just haven't had enough time. And frankly, neither have we as a board. It offends me to hear that in February they were working on this, that in February we were all either appointed or serving, and that I don't know about you, but I didn't hear boo about this until last Wednesday night at about 8:30. And our job as board members is to do the homework and ask the questions that is necessary to come up with a right decision. And I don't think we've had the time to do that. And that concerns me. And it also concerns me that the public hasn't had the time to do that either. We have a two-part motion in front of us. We are being asked to approve a lease that we learned today we haven't seen. And we're being asked to approve a working relationship with the Little Shell that we also haven't seen. And that puts me in a very difficult situation. For instance, on the insurance issue alone, if there is, and we don't know this because there is no work plan, but if there is some kind of phase-in thing that's going to happen, how does the insurance work? Who is liable for what goes on there? Is it us or is it the Little Shell? Or there are many questions there that that really give me pause. That said, I tend to agree with what Member Loomis had said at the outset. My concern is that this has not been, this state park has not turned a profit. We are saddling potentially the Little Shell with a difficult park to manage. We've heard some of the history of that in the past, but there are also just environmental and landscape issues that make it difficult. And so I want to make sure that the Little Shell succeed. I want to make sure that, as is stated in the agenda item itself, I think that we preserve public access as we go through this transition, that we effectuate that transition, number one, as effectively as possible. It's more important to do it effectively than to do it expeditiously. And I think that the outlines of the proposal that are in front of us allow us to do that. So I am going to support the motion, but I would just ask that we not be put in this position. It was avoidable. And we could have been told much earlier the progress of the things that were going on, brought up to speed. We have 3 members that are just hearing for the first time about some of the issues with Hell Creek, and they are complex. So I'm going to support the motion because I don't think you just pout and say no. But I want my concerns about the proposal in front of us to be on the record. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Member Moe. Member McLean, you.
Well, oh boy, I concur with Member Moe except that I am fairly up to speed now, I believe. I've done a lot of research in the last couple of days and feel like I have enough of a handle on this, and more time allow us to rehash past issues and allows them to come into play again. I think it's time to cut bait or whatever they call it, and either move on, either with the transition phase or just simply step back. If that is a concern with you're right, we haven't made any money at this. If it is a concern with the insurance or anything, if we just simply step back, I know there's going to be some trouble. Maybe that is the best option. Then there won't be any issue with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks being responsible for it and so on. I don't know. So that would mean we'd have to amend the motion as is. I'm not sure where I feel. Generally, I always go for a transition time. I don't know. I'd like to have Hank's input on this.
Okay, Member Brown, you're next.
Yeah, I guess I also agree with what Member Moe stated. And is there a way that things could go on? So for instance, the charter fishing business could continue their operations and the Thomases continue their operations till we get some of these questions answered.
Okay, Director Warsack, can you comment on those?
Mr. Chairman and members, probably defer to Zach, but my understanding is once this thing is done at the end of April, we're done. And there is basically no more park at there where we can provide any services. We don't have a lease with them anymore. And like I said, I'll ask for clarification from Zach. But and I will apologize for the way this thing played out, but it was a lot of moving parts in this, as as Misty Cole said, and we tried to do the best we could by the little shell and everybody in there to get a good smooth transition and do it the best way we possibly could. So once again, the topic we have today is just the lease. The rest of the stuff with a little shell and how we're working, that will come in front of the board again with more stuff. So that's my understanding of it. Zach, can you clarify that, please?
Director Warsack, members of the board, I think that if we're going to talk about how we move forward after a contract expires or a lease expires in this case, that's going to have to be a conversation with the Corps as the property owner, first and foremost.
What will the danger be to any of these concessionaires or any of these people and entities with it if we just simply walk away now, do not renew the lease, and don't go into this transition? Will they be able to operate? Will they be able to move forward? Are we hurting them at that point?
Would one of the FWP people please comment?
I can take a first crack at it, and
Thank you.
Director Warsack can weigh in as he sees necessary. Member McLean, members of the board, I think the key thing to keep in mind here is that the concessionaire is there by virtue of an agreement between us and them. And we're only there by virtue of our agreement with the Corps. If our agreement expires, it would be incumbent upon the Corps and the Thomases to figure out how to connect those dots, because we're the middle piece in that relationship.
But it will probably take more than the 2-year transition period for them to connect those dots. And will they be able to even operate during that 2 years? You know, there's so many questions then.
I agree. There are a lot of questions unanswered there in that scenario.
I know then what I would.
Member Mo, you have your hand up.
Yes, I'd like to respond to Member McLean that I don't think just walking away is a responsible option for anybody involved. It leaves everything up in the air. And, you know, again, we want people to be able to use that park. It's as everyone has indicated, it's a wonderful resource for Montana. Beyond that, we want to make sure that the transition is successful, because if it is not, the likelihood is we will be approached again. And we have invested as citizens of Montana significantly in that state park. And we want to make sure that investment continues on, no matter who is running it, to accrue to the people in Montana. So I think the most responsible thing to do is to
transition.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I concur.
Director Warsack, you had your hand up.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So what I'd like to actually have Deputy Director Temple talk about this a little bit, if you wouldn't mind. We have substantial investments there, as Member Mo was talking about. There's a way they have to be handed off. So, Dustin, would you remind responding to that, please?
Yeah, Director Warsack, Chairman Kip, members of the board, Dustin Temple, Deputy Director, Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. As Member Most pointed out, the department has invested significantly with both state general license dollars, park-specific funds, and most importantly, federal Dingell-Johnson boating access funds at that site. There are some controls that need to be worked out between us and the Little Shell to ensure that those improvements remain available to the public at no cost through the duration of their investment. If not, the department would be on the hook for repaying those investments to the tune of nearly $1 million, as Member Mo points out. I think it's about $815,000. And so before we're allowed to even begin the negotiations on those kinds of things, we have to have an agreement in place between us and the Corps. And in listening to the conversation today, understand and appreciate all of the concerns, certainly with the uncertainty about how the transition moved forward. But as Director Warsek mentioned early in the meeting, we had a very productive conversation, a number of them with the Little Shell Tribe. I think we have some basic understandings about getting them to feel comfortable with the park this season. But again, would hammer out an agreement to include the control mechanisms we need for our investments there and making sure they maintain open to the public once the lease is signed. And I believe I heard the director commit that the board would get a look at that again at a future meeting. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Chairman Kent,
Loomis?
just a comment. One thing I would say is that I appreciated hearing from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and I think it was Misty. She's been involved in this for a while, and she described this as really the only option to make this happen. And listening to Mr. McMurray from the Army Corps of Engineers as well kind of clarified that for me on how this process works with the lease, the subleases. It's more clear to me than before. I think that this 2-year lease needs to happen, especially to continue to operate this facility as it is. There could be some lapses there. It sounds to me like if this didn't happen. I'd also like to thank Commissioner Warsek for his hard work on this. There's been a lot of work behind the scenes just to get to this point, and it seems to me this is very well thought out. So I definitely see this as really something that needs to be done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. No other comments or questions from the board. Member Brown, you've got your hand up. I'm sorry.
Just say that I agree with Member Loomis, his comments, and it's clear to me that we need to vote in favor of this lease.
Okay. Member Moe.
I am hoping, Mr. Chairman and members, that that we are voting in favor with the understanding that the plan for transition will come before us, and that the lease that is finalized, we will be given as soon as possible.
Director Warsek.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members. My understanding is we did receive the copy of the new lease without the draft on it. And we can send that out to everybody. Beth, we do have that, correct? You have that available that we can send out?
Yes, just received this morning from the Corps.
Okay, send that to the board members so they can see what the final will look like.
I think it's the public that should see it.
And we'll post it.
Member Brown, you still have your hand up?
No, I don't.
Okay. So if that's all of our questions, then it's time to vote on the motion. And that motion was made by Member Loomis, and it said I move the Parks and Recreation Board approve a 2-year lease agreement between the department and the Army Corps of Engineers to continue management of Hell Creek Recreation Area and work with the Little Shell Tribe to finalize or to familiarize them with the site management through approximate year of 2023. And then Member Brown seconded that motion. Is that correct? Okay. Well, we'll take the vote from the board. All in favor of the motion that I just repeated, say aye.
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 Member McLean and Brown. Aye. Member Brown.
Aye.
Okay. So We have, the motion passes with a 5-0 tally. And then next on our agenda is public comment for issues not on this agenda. Katie, do you have anybody in the queue for that?
Chair Kip, members of the board, I'm seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry. It looks like we do have one here. Ms. Kibler.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate your thought on all of this. I guess my concern is that the transition be made quickly to the Little Shell tribe. And then it looks to me like in order for it to be profitable and work well, that the Little Shell tribe needs to have a for-profit agreement with the Corps. And in order to fix this problem correctly, the Hell Creek Marina should have a direct lease through the Corps of Engineers, like all of the other marinas, you know, rather than this third-party baloney that has been so disruptive. And granted, you've done your best, but anytime you have to deal with 2 to 3 different entities to get anything done, the right hand doesn't hear the left hand, just as you said, you did not hear about this until just a few days ago. They've had years to give this to you.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Member Mo.
While I have noted the same comments in the chat, this particular agenda item is for comment on items that are not on the agenda. So if there is anything else that the public would like to comment other than this matter, in order to follow our own rules, that's the public comment we should be entertaining.
Thank you, Member Mo, for the clarification.
Chair Kip, members of the board, I'm not seeing any hands up. I just do the reminder that it's *9. Oh, it does look like we have Ms. Kibler up.
Thank you for allowing me to ask. I would like to see if this is different from the other issues of the road down into Hell Creek. You know, Parks has put a tremendous amount of money into that road. I mean, millions, and we appreciate that. But our local county government is the one that they have turned it, and I don't know how this comes to where our county road crew is the one that maintains it, but they do a horrible job. They'll make a windrow and leave this windrow on the side of just loose gravel on the edge of the road. And it has caused a couple of wrecks, killed 2 young people, just simply because the young people hit that gravel and it spins them off. It's my understanding that the Little Shell tribe has the resources to fix that. But in the meantime, we take our $100,000 boats and our $100,000 campers down that road. It takes you 2.5 to 3 hours to go down that road because the washboards are so terribly deep. And you vibrate your expensive equipment all to heck. Well, how do you address that issue?
Okay, thank you. Katie, do you have anybody else with issues that are not on the agenda?
Chair Kip, members of the board, I'm seeing none.
Okay, if there are no more comments, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting? Member McLean, you muted yourself.
Well, leave it to me. I would like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
I would second that motion.
Okay, Member Loomis second that motion. So this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
I'm sorry, I lost connectivity there. Where are we?
We just adjourned the meeting. Member
Okay.
Mary, I've enjoyed getting to know you on this. This is excellent.
I'm
Proud to
sorry. I wish it had been under more pleasant circumstances. I do look forward to working